All right, this is a long video, so I'm gonna keep this intro short. But this black woman, Lacey Tezino, believed she was white until she was an adult. We're gonna share the story. It's actually a pretty good story. Pretty just a good story. A good story about love and passion, and pretty just interesting, compelling story. But yeah, she claims to not know she was black until she was an adult. So yeah, let's let's dive right into it. Y'all let me know what y'all think. All right, it's Ricky Rich with Black Primacy. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on your notifications.
First up on The Factor tonight, an incredible, fascinating, and compelling story of self-discovery and family. Decades ago, Lacey Tezino's biological mother made a life-changing decision while pregnant in a bar just off of Montrose Boulevard. Ultimately, Lacey ended up being adopted while also being truly loved by that adoptive family. But there were also hidden secrets, like being told her birth mother was dead and she was white. She was told she was white while growing up in the sundown town blacks were told to avoid called Vidor, Texas. It's truly a layered slice of life filled with love, confusion, and coming to terms with the hand life has given you. Lacey joins us now here in the studio to talk about it, sharing it for the first time on broadcast television. Of course, you did it on the podcast where I saw it. I stole it. So, but incredible story, incredible story. So take us to the beginning. It starts off in a Montrose bar from what you can recall and what you've been told.
Yes. So Michael's was owned by my father, Ronnie Huckabee. So he was one arm running this bar. It was Michael's was the gay bar. Next door there was Michelle's. It was the lesbian bar. And my mom was a regular there. She would come in. All of her friends knew him. And when she was pregnant with me, she found herself in the bar. And she had already made up her mind that she was going to have an abortion. She didn't tell my biological father that she was pregnant. Mm-hmm. So he was a trucker. They were out in California. She finds out she's pregnant. She flies home to Houston, and she knows what she's going to do. She's at the bar. She's drinking. She's pouring her heart out to my dad, who's there. He owns the bar. And he wanted a child so bad for many years. He always wanted a family with his lifestyle, couldn't have one. And so when she's telling him her story, he wanted me. Mm-hmm. He said, you know what? He found an opportunity. He saw an opportunity where he could help her out and said, okay, I'll take her. What do you need? I'll take care of you. I'll pay for everything. And so right then, the next day they made the agreement, and he took care of her. And he provided for her, made sure she stayed clean until I was born, and then they signed the papers and he adopted me.
And when, obviously, he wanted her to stay clean because she was carrying you.
Yes.
And didn't want any harm coming to you because you would be his new daughter.
Yes.
And when they signed the adoption papers, certain things were put on that paper that had you conflicted for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know all the legal points back then, but for them to actually put on the paperwork that he was my father, so they had made the agreement. They said, okay, for this to happen, we're basically saying that she's given up her rights, mm-hmm. and that he was the father, and that, my mom was no longer going to have any rights, and that, his race was white, and that my mom's race was white, which was untrue. And so when I had the adoption papers and my family was told that he was my dad, right? Mm-hmm. And so that was part of the confusion was, okay, that wasn't the race, obviously. They didn't put my mom's correct race. And then they also didn't tell the truth that he wasn't my biological father, that it wasn't my mom just giving her rights away. He wasn't the biological father. And so that wasn't told until, revealed to me until I was 18.
And of course, you ended up with him moving from Houston to Vidor because he became sick.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So he didn't have any plans on moving back. So when he adopted me, he planned to stay and live in Houston. He had an apartment near Montrose. And so he even hired a nanny from Mexico. And she was living with us. So it was just the nanny and him. We were living there. And then he was in remission for a while. So he had cancer. That's why he had one arm. He had a piece of cancer in his hand, and the doctor cut it in half, and it spread up his arm.
Wow.
So they had to cut his arm off. And so, but he had been in remission for a long time. He was doing great, running the bar. Everything was good. And then when I was 18 months old, it came back. And they kept monitoring like his arm and, you know, his lungs where it had spread, but it had spread to his brain, and they didn't catch it. And so by the time it got to his brain, he got really sick. And so we had to move back to Vidor because, you know, he just couldn't care for me on his own.
And how long were you in Vidor with him alive?
From 18 months old, so he passed when I was 6.
And so when he died and you were 6 years old, then the responsibility went to your grandparents.
It did.
So what was that like?
From what I can remember, you know, my grandparents were devastated. You know, that was their only son. And so it was a really, really sad time. But where I lived, right around the corner, so my dad had 2 sisters, and we all lived like right there on the same corner. And so I kind of went between the 3 houses. So I had 7 cousins. We all lived right there. And so my grandparents were really grieving and struggling. And my grandmother also lost her mom a month after my dad. And so that was a really dark time. But I remember being surrounded by love. My cousins, my 2 aunts, my uncles, like everyone loved me. They took care of me. It was, although it was sad, I was well taken care of when that happened. Yeah.
You said you were the special one in the family, and some of your cousins got jealous as a result of you being so special.
I was spoiled.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
And keep in mind, for the viewer out there those who don't know about Vidor, Texas, it's known as a sundown town. It was a town that many blacks would avoid at all costs, never stop in, because they had Ku Klux Klan connections. They were allegedly racist there, and you probably say, don't say allegedly, it was true. And so black families ran out in the 90s when they tried to locate, the federal government tried to locate some black families there, but you thrived there.
I did. Somehow, some way. I think part of it was I just had an amazing family, and then I think the other part was, you know, I don't know if it was the disguise that I put on. I was just trying to, you know, fit in, and I think I did a good job.
But that was all you knew, because they told you, and one of the things you mentioned earlier was in the podcast, your grandparents or your grandmother or relatives told you, you're white, you're white.
If anyone asks, you're not black. Yeah.
That's interesting to me. Just that comment alone. The family definitely, you know, was looking out for her. So that's love to me. Looking at her, she looks black, so it's interesting that she's still able to survive. Even her baby pictures look like a young black girl. I don't know. I guess we'll continue to listen, but as of right now, I'm kind of shocked that her and her family were able to get away with this. There had to have been a network of people watching over her in this type of situation. But let's see.
And I mean, you didn't know anything else.
No.
And
it didn't feel right. Of course, I had this feeling like, but you just go with it, right? When you're that young, you're just like, all right, like this is the story I've got. I'm running with it. I mean, I made up all kinds of stories, like just to, you know, try to keep it all going.
Right. All right. We'll be right back with you, so you have much more to tell. Don't go anywhere. We'll pick up with this chat after the break. Welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. Lacey Tezino's life journey is being shared for the very first time on broadcast television. She's back to continue it here on The Factor Uncensored. And, of course, you were growing up in Vidor, Orangeville, and one day there was a knock on your door, and you're in high school now, but your life as a high school student, middle school student was great. You were voted some very popular people in high school and middle school in what we would consider a very racist community.
Yeah. I was. I mean, I was class president, homecoming this, prom queen. Like, you know, I had a great group of friends. I was into sports. You know, when people say, "Oh man, it must have been really hard. It must have been awful. You didn't have any friends," and I'm like, "No, I was doing very well and well taken care of." Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so one day you get a knock on the door. You're preparing for church. I think it's Easter, right?
Yeah.
You're preparing for church on Easter Day, and you're a sophomore in high school, or you're in high school.
Yeah.
And who is that knocking on the door?
Charles. So that's my mom's boyfriend. At the time, they had been together many years, and he had been following my location and story, and he always knew where I was. He's like a big IT guy, and he always used to drive down to Louisiana for his family, and he kept telling my mom, "You need to get in touch with her. You need to get in touch with her." My mom was like, "She's too young. Let's leave it alone. I'm not going to do this right now."
And this is after you were told your mom was dead.
Yes.
And you had no family other than the family inviter.
That's it. And so he shows up, and he gets spooked and thinks that they're not going to let him see me. So he lies and says he's my brother. Mm-hmm. So he says, I'm Lacey's brother. So I meet him, and he says, our mom lives in Houston. And I'm like, this story sounds so bogus, and his age. And my family was like, man, he's making it up. And you could tell he was like super nervous. And so we just didn't believe it. Mm-hmm. And part of it, I was like, no, there's something to this guy. Like, there's definitely, but at that point, I'm like, wait, is what he's saying true? Like, is my mom really alive? Like, is this really my brother? I didn't really know.
And your family told you what? And they were emphatic about it.
Oh, they were like, no, I don't know what he wants. He's probably crazy. It's not true. Your mom's dead. She died of, HIV when you were young. And so, I just kind of brushed it off.
Mm-hmm. And you went on with your life.
Yeah.
Ended up in college at Sam Houston.
Yeah. And then sophomore year, I said, you know what? It came back around.
Before we get to that, though, let's go to the realization that you were black from your suite mates. Mm-hmm. It was your first day, and you said you were in the bathroom, and your suite mates walked in and saw some Abercrombie and Fitch posters on the wall that you had put up.
Yeah.
You put it up before they got there. You were the first one there.
Yeah, I had all my white models on the wall.
And you heard them in the bathroom saying what?
They said, oh man, we got a white roommate. Because they see all these pictures. I've got all these pictures of family and these, white models with their shirts off and stuff. And so they thought they had a white roommate.
And so they had a conversation with you one day, and what did they tell you?
Oh my gosh. They were like, hey, you're telling us this about your family, but which one of your parents are black? And I was like, neither one of them. They're like, girl. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, you're black, right? And I was like, well, I was told my mom was Hawaiian and my dad was white. They were like, that doesn't add up. Like, we just want to make sure that you know.
So that made, of course I didn't watch this video all the way through, but that makes a little bit more sense as to how she can not know that she is black, because the parents said her mom was Hawaiian and her dad was white. So it kind of makes sense. I mean, the hair, but being growing up being told that, this makes sense. This makes sense and good enough. It's funny. I'm glad she had some real people around her to sit her down and say, that's not right.
Well, I was told my mom was Hawaiian and my dad was white. They were like, that doesn't add up. Like, we just want to make sure that you know. And oh my gosh, I mean, they were like you. They were sitting there crying, laughing, and I'm like, this is not funny. My whole life is falling apart.
We'll be back with your story in just a moment. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. Lacey is back sharing her incredible personal adoption story. She's also talked about part of the experience in her book, Therapy After Mom Died. So now you're in college. Your friends who are still, you have one of them here with you tonight.
Yeah.
They're still with you. And they said, girl, you're black. You don't see that you're black. and the average viewer out there would be like, why don't you know you're black at that point?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I think your family hit it in so hard.
I think it is that, and I think, I mean, honestly, you know, when you're where you grow up, and if everyone around you is white, and you just don't have any black friends, and you don't have any black family members, and you don't have anyone around, and this is what you see, that's what you watch on TV, I mean, you just go with what you're told, honestly. Like, of course you question it, but, I mean, to me, I was like, I don't know what Hawaiian people look like. Like, you know, I never seen a Hawaiian.
And one day you decided to pick up the phone while working at H-E-B in their gas station at H-E-B and say, let me call this woman who's on my birth certificate listed as my mother for this English project I had to do at Sam Houston.
Yeah, I wanted more information about her, and I thought, okay, at that time, okay, maybe I can call. If there's a number listed for her, they'll have some kind of information that I can get. And I called, and she picked up the phone. That was the first time I heard my mother's voice.
And what did she say?
Oh my gosh. She said, you know, may I ask who's speaking? And I said, I think I'm your daughter. When she said she was Elizabeth, and she said Lacey. And when she said that, I knew. I'm like, how, you know, there's no way that she would know. She said, come to me right now. Where are you? I said, I'm in Huntsville. She said, okay, I live in Houston. I didn't know she lived in Houston, didn't know where she was. And it was, you know, Mother's Day that morning. She said, come today. I want you to come today. And I guess Huntsville's like an hour and a half away. And I got off work that day, and I drove and met her for the first time.
And when you first laid eyes on her?
Oh, my gosh. She was beautiful. She was beautiful. I knew right then I saw her. I was like, that's my mama. I knew it.
We'll continue with you in just a moment. Stay with us here on The Factor. And welcome back to The Factor. Lacey is back sharing her story of adoption. She also shared it online in a conversation with She's Happy Hair CEO, Warren Broadnax, who brought it to me. And he also joins us in studio now. But first of all, let's go back to you, Lacey. Meeting your mom, and also you learned you had an older brother.
Yeah, Damien.
What was that like?
Oh, my gosh. I don't know. I mean, there's something so incredible about, you know, finding out that you're adopted, finding out that everyone around you, you know, wasn't, you know, a part of, like, blood family, and then meeting my brother and knowing that we had the same mom. There's something
different about that.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, it was pretty incredible.
But you still truly appreciate the family that you were raised with, because you said they showed you nothing but love.
Oh, yeah. They're spectacular.
And matter of fact, your grandmother.
She lives with us now. She's 85, and she lives in our house now.
And you told Warren an interesting story. Here's a woman who's 85 who came from Selma, Alabama. Then she ended up in Vidor, Texas, and now she's living with a family full of black people.
Wait till she sees this. Oh, yeah. We've rocked her world.
And so, Warren, you were just taken by this story just like I have after seeing your podcast. It's just incredible.
It is the most phenomenal story I've ever heard. Like a friend of ours introduced me and Lacey, and he was just like, you gotta hear Lacey's story. Like, come to my house and just listen to Lacey's story. And we sat in the backyard and drank wine and ate cheese, and she told me the story. And I was done filming my podcast, but I was like, what time are you free this week? I'm gonna book some time. Like, I feel like the whole world needs to hear this story, man. I mean, the story.
And the world has been responding. Incredible response so far.
Yeah. We've been putting up millions here in the last few days of views.
It's wild.
Which is a tad bit different from my 800 views I'm accustomed to. Let me tell you right now.
Oh, that's so cute. 800 views. So, I mean, to share your story with people, not only in the book, in flashbacks, but also on podcasts and on TV, how's the response been? And you've been getting it real time on social media.
Oh, it's overwhelming. I would say 90% of it is beautiful and positive, and people are finding themselves in my story in some regard, whether it has to do with my upbringing, whether it has to do with my adoption story, or my mom, or college, or self-identity. People are finding themselves and their families and their own identity within my story, and they are, I mean, there's no way, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to respond. I have 200 message requests right now, and we have thousands of comments of people just relating and being proud and being honored and watching. I mean, our podcast was an hour and a half long, and we've had more than 50,000 people watch the whole hour and a half.
I've been one of them.
It's unbelievable.
I've been one of them.
It's blowing my mind.
And of course, where can we find your book? Tell us the name of your book and where we can find it.
Amazon, Therapy After Mom Died.
Therapy After Mom Died.
Yeah.
And of course, Warren, where can we find your podcast where you can hear her full interview, more than an hour and a half long? It was incredible.
The Art of Never Giving Up podcast. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and I want to put out a quick shout out to Tyler Perry. If you turn this into a movie, She's Happy Hair has to do all the hair. Do all the hair. She's Happy Hair got to do all the hair.
There you go, Tyler Perry. This needs to be a movie. Thank you guys for joining us. And Lacey, thank you for sharing your story. Incredible story.
Yeah, that definitely does need to be a movie. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I believe it. I don't think there's any BS going on there. I'm glad I didn't watch that all the way through. Like I said, it was a long video, 18 minutes. I just skimmed through, watched a little bit just to make sure it was entertaining enough. And yeah, I mean, when I first read like a short article on it, and I thought, this sounds like something straight out of like a Dave Chappelle skit, right? If you're familiar with, what's his name? Clayton Bigsby from Dave Chappelle. And that's where I thought this was headed. But no, I mean, she made perfect sense, right? Being born into and raised around 100% people who don't really look like you, and you're being told, in a sense, brainwashed, right, for her safety's sake, that you are, no matter what anybody says, this is what you are, right? Then that's just what's gonna happen. That's people underestimate. I think people underestimate the power of family, parental influence at such a young age. Right. It's the reason why, really, I believe the reason why racism is still so heavily prevalent in this country. It's because, how are you a 21-year-old racist? Right? You're a 21-year-old racist because your family dynamic that you were raised around was likely also racist and said derogatory things and racist things around you while you were growing up, and that's what you knew, and that's how you know. And as you get older, and especially with social media being so heavily inflated with people being racist, or saying racist things just for clout, right? It's so much more out there. You have so much more access to people who you may believe thinks like you, plus you're raised by it. That's how that stuff actually happens, right? And so her being told that her mom was, which was I thought was actually a excellent excuse. Her mom was Hawaiian and her dad was white, right? I thought that was excellent. Since she as long as she can remember, it makes sense to me. It makes sense as how she could grow up and not truly know she was black. I'm I'm sure she has, um, like she said, she had some questions, right? Just looking at herself and maybe seeing people on TV that very closely resembled her, just based on their, skin and hair texture. Um, and so, you can't hide it 100% completely, but if that's all she knew, then that's all she know. So, uh-oh, looks like I lost my video, but oh, there it goes. Yep, I think I'm back. But yeah, I think that was an incredible story. I think that was an incredible story. I'm glad I was able to share this. Y'all let me know what y'all think though. All right, tap in. Like I said, I believe it. It's interesting. She talked about 90% of the people, 90% of the engagement that she had received so far has been positive. I'm curious what other people are thinking. Um, I'd be willing to bet that most of them were like me, who were kind of confused, maybe passed judgment a little early without hearing the full story in detail. Um, and so that comes with the nature of sharing a story like that, right? So, but yeah, congrats to Lacey. Let's give her a let's give her a hell yeah for such an incredible story. See if I can get it. So yeah, but y'all let me know what y'all think. All right, incredible story. Y'all let me know what y'all think. It's Ricky Rich for Black Primacy. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on your notifications.